Hi there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Travis's Musings. I know it's been a little bit since we've chatted last. I wanted to wait until my iFund period was over to do another video update, since I thought it was more beneficial if we could take a look at a whole period of a large move change, which, if you're unfamiliar with my strategy 138.51, we have currently spent the last 6 weeks in the iFund, which is always a very stressful time period for me, since the BlackRock correction, which they do at the end of every day at around 4 o'clock to offset potential currency manipulation, which is their for lack of a better descriptive term that they use, can be kind of dramatic. But for the most part, it's been pretty positive on those corrections over this time period, with the exception of Thursday, the 25th, which is where we had a minus 0.65% correction in the wrong way, which hurt on that day. We were soundly beating the S Fund until then, and we're still soundly beating the S Fund. But let's take a look here. My next move, I've already actually submitted my IFT, is going to be on Monday when Team Travis heads to the S Fund for what looks like most of April, and before we transition into the C Fund for May. But over the last time period here, over the last 6 weeks, you can see that Team Travis has done pretty good. We ended up positive 0.27%. And unfortunately, the big downer here is we lost to Jaron, which we don't like to ever give Jaron any credit. But he had a couple of days where he flexed to the G Fund. If you go down here to February, and then where he flexed back out to the S Fund, and that netted him a couple of really nice days there. And then he's been back in the G Fund for all of March, and of course he jumped back into the S Fund here as we get closer, and he's done pretty good over the last couple of days. So hats off to Jaron for taking a late lead on this time period. And the big note here is that even though we did lose by 1% to C, we were able to offset over 4.5% losses on the S, which is where we were previously. And so we were able to take all of those gains that they utilized, and then we were able to preserve them moving to the I Fund during a seasonally strong period for that, which it was pretty good over this run. I'm not upset at all. The swings on the CNS were pretty dramatic over that time period, where the I Fund was pretty even keeled as we moved through. So I'm pretty pleased with that time period, and we're going to see what's coming ahead. So you can see the current status of the beer bet is Team Travis is still winning pretty resoundingly at positive 12.87%, doubling the C Fund and almost doubling the S. Jaron has actually taken a lead over the S Fund, so his strategy is beating buy and hold. Matt and Larry, Ryan, and Anthony are all right there as well. And Dina is bringing up the rear here at 1.8%. But there's plenty of year left for her to make that up. And we can go ahead and take a look here as we move into April. You can see that most of the strategies have us in equities all the way through April. Dina's strategy does exit temporarily in the middle and the end of the month for a couple of days. But April is a pretty strong month historically for equities. And so it's important as we move into April to keep that in mind. If you guys are loosely following seasonal strategies and utilizing this as part of your tool bag when you all make your decisions, the month of April is historically pretty strong. In fact, we can go ahead and bring that up here. Kind of take a look here, and we'll look at historically how the C and the S Fund do over that time period. All right, so April for the C Fund averages 2.54% over the data span that we have, which, as you can take a look across the board, is the best month historically of the year for C Fund and for the S Fund as well. The S Fund technically has a little better November, but historically April has been really strong for small equities as well. You can see that last year probably tipped the scale a little bit. Ironically, it was pretty close to that run it had in 2009 as well. And the C fund also had a pretty good run there. Not quite as good in 2009, but April has historically been pretty strong. So we can keep that in mind moving forward here. All right. And I do want to pop over and take a look here at the S fund, which is where I'm moving to next, and kind of take a look at the year-to-date chart. And I kind of drew some channel lines here that I thought were kind of interesting. We had that initial run up pretty strong, where I think the S fund topped out at like plus, I don't know, 15% or something like that. 16%. It was pretty strong there for a while. Hit a high of 22.62, and that's an all-time high for the S fund. And as it came out of that initial channel, it kind of started to create a new one. And the most important number in my mind has been 2,000. And so it's bounced off that 2,000 number repeatedly. If you go back a little bit further, it was resistance until here on January 6th, where it broke through, and then it became support. And you can see as it comes down, it's bounced off this a couple of times here. And so we potentially have some room to run for the next month as we head higher. And of course, it will be important to keep a number or an eye on this 2262 number as we kind of move forward. If you're utilizing, again, technical analysis along with seasonality to make your own investing decisions, which does lead us back to an important point here, is that nobody here at TSP Calc are investment advisors. We're just a group of guys and gals who like to get together and take a look at our TSP and try to maximize our results. And we like to share that with you guys out there. So again, just to kind of recap today is that Team Travis is still dominating the field. And as I alluded to at the beginning of the year, these all equity strategies really, in my opinion, have been kind of the light in the tunnel as far as avoiding some of the swings as opposed to beating or losing to buy and hold. And I really have enjoyed being in all equities, and it's clearly been paying off already with almost a doubling of the standard CNS on the year. So that being said, I'm excited over this next period here as we move into the S fund and then into the C fund. I'm probably going to touch base back again before we get into June, which is when a lot of the strategies here, I can pull those back up, are going to be rotating. Let me pull Jaron, Larry, Dina, Matt as well. You're going to notice a lot of these strategies as we get into June, which is historically not a great month for equities, are going to rotate out. And so we're going to have an opportunity to touch base before that happens and kind of see where the market's at. A lot of things can happen. The VIX is still extremely high. I think that the VIX, the last time I checked, let me pull it back up here, was still at 18.8, which is still really high. And so we've still got some volatility in the market right now, and so it's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, as you can see, as we move into June, actually it looks like a lot of those guys, Jaron's strategy is the only one that really exits full time. I don't have a lot of exiting this year as we had years past. So it'll be kind of curious to see how that goes. So expect a check back in May, and we'll kind of go from there. In the meantime, I do have another video planned. I had a TSP Calc member send me an email asking me for some advice on utilizing the seasonal builder and the search functions on TSP Calc. And so I'm going to make a short video kind of detailing some strategies on how to search, and I'm going to kind of walk through some basics on the seasonal builder because I know how intimidating that can be for some people. And so look for that in the next, hopefully in the next week or two, and we can kind of head from there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and or comment on this video, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can.